Fashion is not something that exists in dresses only. Fashion is in the sky, in the street. Fashion has to do with ideas, the way we live, what is happening. Coco Chanel. Flappers: Fashion Forging for Women Against the Societal Norms of the 1920s by Abby Forbes, Sienna McNamara, and Maggie Meyer. The Roaring Twenties was a period in American history of dramatic social, economic, and political change. It was an era of change and growth. The decade was one of learning and exploration. America had become a world power and the economy was booming. Before World War I, the United States' ideas and beliefs line up close to the 19th century, but in the 1920s, America managed to break those barriers and turn to a more modern era. Scientists broke borders of space and time, aviators put men in the air, and women were beginning to work. The 19th Amendment was officially passed and ratified in 1920, granting women the right to vote after extensive concern and protest for the equalities of women. While various improvements were made in the new area, it branched out in modernism and urbanism, but it also experienced great social unrest. Prohibition and religious fundamentalism also became prevalent. The people of America had a very important decision to make. Much of the population wanted to see what was ahead of them, but the others saw the ideas of the past in their future. Flappers were starting to become more prevalent in the 1920s. Various sources from the time period say that the word flapper comes from a fashion fad amidst teenage girls who wore their shoes unbuckled, which flapped in the wind. But these period sources are wrong. The true origin of the word flapper comes from a young bird flapping its wings, learning to fly, which is a reference to the young teenage girls figuring out who they are. Flappers of the 1920s drank alcohol, smoked in public, danced at clubs, and got the opportunity to practice sexual freedom. The outrageous actions of these young girls appalled their parents. The girls wore shorter dresses that revealed their calves and had lower necklines. Although dresses were shorter, they weren't exactly form-fitting, which shows how styles of the times were different. Slim and straight was the ideal silhouette. Flappers wore high heels, took off their corsets in favor of bras and lingerie. In the age before the Roaring Twenties, women were still wearing floor-length dresses, with great emphasis on modesty. Arms and legs were covered. Corsets were standard on a daily basis, so waists were cinched. Rich fabrics were used for thick skirts and dresses of lighter hues. Before and after the war, modest clothing was worn. The fashionable look overall was that of a mature and sophisticated woman.
The young girls were given several nicknames. In Norway, the expression backfish was used, which in German means fried fish. An example, fish that were too small to be boiled. The French expression la garçon was also used to mean boy-girl or bachelor girl. In the United States, the term flapper was popular. The term was born out of the idea of a young bird flapping while learning to fly. The unbridled flapper is well represented throughout female figures in literature, including author F. Scott Fitzgerald's books, one being The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby captures the American dream of the 1920s, encompassing the lavish and reckless lifestyles lived during the era of flappers. Hollywood films also heavily depicted the naughty flapper character. All of these expressions had something condescending about them. Backfish, bachelor girls, and flappers were excused. They hadn't grown fully into being an adult yet. An important designer in the 1920s for modernist women was Coco Chanel. Her niche was post-World War I era fashion that dealt with simplicity, while the styles were also functional. After the bespoke tailoring of elegant suits that influenced her further experiments with menswear that she had designed. Chanel's garçon look was quickly adopted in Britain and the United States and has broadly been called the flapper look. One of her most iconic looks within the era for flappers was the little black dress. Colleen Moore, born Kathleen Morrison in 1899, was the first sensational flapper on screen. She took her first step in Hollywood at age 15 and began her career during the silent film era. The turning point in her career came with a story called Flaming Youth of 1923, which had been a scandalous, best-selling novel about neckers, petters, white kisses, red kisses, pleasure-mad daughters, and sensation-craving mothers. Colleen wanted the role of wild daughter Patricia Frentis so badly, so with the help of her mother, she overhauled her screen image. Gone were the long curls, and her mother cut her hair into a Dutch bob. Second of the three most famous flappers is Clara Bow. Miss Bow has never left the American and Western cultural imagination. She is perhaps the diva who, more than any other, has decreed the eternal charm of the flapper. There is something vital that conquers in her presence. It is the spirit of youth. She is a rampant young American, the very symbol of being a flapper. Bow's appeal had many facets. The writer Eleanor Glynn describes it as warmth, charisma, vivacity, and apparently effortless charm. And in that sense, Bo is undoubtedly an it girl and appealed to both men and women. There hasn't been another one like her. Not only did she have the perfect flapper face and figure, she also radiated fun and excitement and spontaneity. On camera, she was irresistible. America fell in love with the on screen image of Bo because of her big eyed, baby faced beauty, but also because she was carefree, energetic, self assured, and breezily independent. Off camera, she was 100% real at all times. The third famous flapper figure on our list is Mary Louise Brooks. Louise Brooks was an American jazz age icon, Hollywood actress, and dancer. Her innocent eroticism, along with her pale, beautiful features and bobbed brunette hair, her rebellious temperament, her witty jokes, and bold sincerity, made her both a film icon and a symbol of the disdainful flapper of the 1920s. She started her career as a dancer, and she was the youngest member of the Denishon Dancers, joining the troupe and traveling to New York City to pursue a career in dance at just 15 years old. After an argument, she left the company and found employment as a chorus girl in George White's Scandals and as a semi-nude Charleston and burlesque dancer in the Ziegfeld Follies in New York City. While performing, she came to the attention of Walter Wanger, a producer at Paramount Pictures, and was signed to a 5-year contract with the studio.
These three women, along with many others who participated in the flapper movement, pushed for gender equality and the liberty of women in the early 20th century. Despite the criticism received that these women were seen as flashy and vulgar for wearing excessive makeup, drinking, treating sex in a casual manner, smoking, driving automobiles, and more, it only motivated the evolution of a woman's sense of independence and freedom. By challenging previous morals of women in society through their lifestyles, the barrier of social norms was broken and a change in society emerged. Overall, in the Roaring Twenties, flappers were young women who were known for their lively freedom and how openly they embraced their new scandalous, immoral, and dangerous lifestyles. Past restrictions on their manner were overthrown. Now considered the first generation of individualistic American women, flappers pushed barriers in political and sexual freedom.